He remembers nothing except her, a CEO bound by amnesia yet fiercely devoted. But when his wife discovers her own long-lost family, a powerful lineage she never knew, their carefully rebuilt world is about to unravel in ways no one expected. The Chin family estate buzzed with an uneasy quiet, a common atmosphere since Arthur's accident. He sat at the head of the polished mahogany table, a formidable presence even with the shadows of amnesia clouding his piercing eyes. To his younger sister, Anya, who offered a tentative anecdote about her day, he merely gave a curt nod, his gaze distant, almost impatient. Julian Chin, Arthur's closest friend and business partner, received a similar, detached acknowledgement. The old warmth, the sharp wit they remembered, was lost to the selective void in his mind. But when Elara, seated beside him, reached for his hand, a subtle shift occurred. The hard line of his jaw softened, his intense eyes melting into a pool of unwavering devotion. He interlaced their fingers, a silent anchor in his fractured world. Elara offered a reassuring smile, accustomed to being the bridge between Arthur and everyone else. She observed the subtle hurt in Anya's eyes, the knowing acceptance in Julian's. A pang of her own unfulfilled longing for a complete, sprawling family, a past that had always been a blank slate, echoed in her chest. She had Arthur, their children, and now Arthur's family, but the void of her own origins remained. Just as the uneasy silence threatened to settle, a sharp, insistent knock rattled the grand entrance. A servant opened it, revealing a man standing in the threshold. Tall, with an intense, almost predatory gleam in his eyes, he wasn't familiar to anyone. He held aloft a sealed envelope. "I apologize for the intrusion." The stranger's voice was steady, resonant. "My name is Victor He." And Elara Lin, his gaze locked onto her. "You are my sister." "This," he stated, presenting the DNA test results, "proves it." The air crackled. Elara's breath hitched, her heart thundering against her ribs. "Sister?" The word, so foreign yet profoundly resonant, brought a rush of tears she hadn't known she harbored. A lifetime of quiet yearning suddenly found its voice, its form. Arthur, sensing her overwhelming shock, tightened his grip on her hand, a silent, unyielding pillar against the world that had just irrevocably shifted beneath their feet. Elara, still trembling from Victor's revelation, turned to Arthur, her voice a whispered tremor. "They're coming. My parents. Eleanor and Richard He." Victor offered a reassuring smile, a silent promise of support. Arthur, though his face remained a mask of calm, tightened his grip on her hand, a steady anchor in her swirling emotions. "We'll be ready," he stated, his low voice a profound certainty that anchored Elara. He watched her, seeing a deep, ancient yearning he hadn't fully comprehended until now, finally bubbling to the surface. He would ensure this reunion was everything she deserved. Hours later, the grand entrance hall of the Chin residence shimmered with an unfamiliar warmth. Eleanor and Richard He, a dignified couple whose eyes held a lifetime of quiet strength and sorrow, finally embraced Elara. Tears streamed down Elara's face, years of unspoken longing washing away in their loving hold. "My daughter," Eleanor whispered, stroking Elara's hair, while Richard patted her back, his own eyes brimming. Arthur stood a respectful distance, a watchful, unmoving guardian, while Victor, a broad, genuine grin on his face, properly introduced himself to his parents. The dinner table, usually a stage for Arthur's quiet authority, now buzzed with vibrant conversation, a joyous cacophony. Eleanor recounted anecdotes from Elara's early childhood, filling the painful voids in Elara's memory with love and laughter. Richard spoke of their long search, their regret palpable but entirely overshadowed by immense relief and happiness. Elara, nestled between her new mother and Arthur, felt a sense of profound completeness she'd never imagined possible. This was family, undeniable and overflowing, a balm to her long-aching heart. Mid-meal, Serena Wang, a socialite known for her polished ambition, glided into the dining room, her presence a ripple in the otherwise harmonious atmosphere. "Julian, darling." I heard you'd be here, she purred, her eyes immediately seeking Julian Chin, who sat opposite Anya. Serena, impeccably dressed and radiating self-assurance, leaned in, her expensive perfume a sharp contrast to the home-cooked aromas. I had the most fascinating idea for a partnership, something truly groundbreaking, and I simply had to tell you in person. Julian offered a polite but noticeably cool smile. Perhaps another time, Serena. We're in the middle of a family dinner. Anya, who had been listening intently to her new relatives, subtly stiffened. Her glance flickered from Serena's confident smirk to Julian's impassive face, a familiar knot of inadequacy tightening in her stomach. She watched as Serena continued to monopolize Julian's attention, detailing her brilliant plan with an effusive charm that made Anya feel small and invisible. The warmth of the family reunion momentarily dimmed for Anya, a shadow cast by Serena's calculated brilliance and her own unspoken longing. Unaware of the lingering unease that had settled over Anya, Elara found a profound sense of peace blooming within her, a vibrant energy she channeled into her design studio. With her newly found mother, Eleanor, as her muse, Elara began sketching. Lines flowed effortlessly, capturing Eleanor's elegant grace and the quiet strength she now saw in her mother's eyes. The creation wasn't just a dress, it was a tangible expression of Elara's blossoming identity, her artistic talent now imbued with a deeper, familial love. When she presented the finished design to Eleanor, a soft, ethereal gown, her mother's eyes welled with tears. It's perfect, Elara. You've captured my soul, Eleanor whispered, her embrace confirming a bond that felt ancient and unbreakable. Meanwhile, Arthur, ever the quiet observer, had been meticulously planning. Despite his still fragmented memories and the demanding schedule of Chincorp, his focus remained unwaveringly on Elara and the burgeoning family unit. One evening, he laid out a thick binder on the coffee table, a detailed itinerary for a week-long stay at an exclusive mountain resort, complete with children's activities, gourmet dining options, and even a discreet medical team on standby for Eleanor and Richard. We need this, he stated, his gaze meeting Elara's, a rare warmth softening his usually intense eyes. A true family retreat. For all of us. The sheer thoughtfulness, the foresight, the effort he'd poured into every detail despite his amnesia was an overwhelming testament to his silent, unwavering devotion. It wasn't just a trip, it was Arthur's profound, unspoken promise to cherish and protect their expanding world. Elara's heart swelled, the quiet strength of his love a powerful anchor. Days later, the Chin and He families descended upon the tranquil resort. Laughter echoed through the luxurious chalet as the children explored, and conversations flowed easily between the adults. Away from the pressures of city life and any social climbers, Anya found herself relaxing. During a leisurely stroll through the resort's sprawling gardens, Julian, usually absorbed in his phone, looked up when Anya stumbled slightly on an uneven path. Before she could steady herself, his hand was instinctively at her elbow, a fleeting, firm touch. Careful, he murmured, his gaze unusually soft before he quickly averted it, resuming his walk as if nothing had happened. Anya's cheeks flushed, a warmth spreading through her that had nothing to do with the sun. It was a small gesture, easily missed, yet for Anya, it was a spark, a subtle acknowledgement that made her feel seen, if only for a moment. The quiet intimacy of the family retreat allowed these delicate feelings to unfurl, promising more than just a vacation. The final evening at the resort was bathed in the warm glow of setting sun. Elara, holding Arthur's hand, watched their children chase the retreating waves, a profound sense of belonging settling over her. Her parents, Eleanor and Richard, stood nearby, their gazes filled with a contentment Elara had never dared to dream of. Beijing sounds wonderful, Mother, Elara murmured, turning to Arthur. He squeezed her hand, his eyes, though still holding a trace of distant mystery, were utterly focused on her. It's important to you, Elara. And what's important to you is important to us. His quiet assurance was the only foundation she ever needed. Meanwhile, Serena Wang, ever persistent, spotted Julian near the bar, feigning casual conversation with a hotel manager. She approached, a practiced smile on her lips, her voice a little too bright. "Julian, I've been meaning to ask, are you planning any new ventures this quarter? I have some fascinating market insights." Julian, however, was already glancing over her shoulder, a slight frown creasing his brow. Anya, who had just stepped away from Arthur and Elara, dropped her scarf. Before Serena could even register the movement, Julian had smoothly retrieved it, offering it to Anya with a curt, almost imperceptible nod. He didn't even look back at Serena, leaving her mid-sentence, her carefully constructed pitch dissolving into the evening air. Anya's cheeks flushed a delicate pink, a small, private victory shimmering in her eyes. Later, as the resort lights twinkled around them, Elara leaned into Arthur. "Our future, together," she whispered, the promise of Beijing and a unified family stretching before them like an open road. He kissed her forehead, a rare, tender gesture that spoke volumes. "Always, my Elara. Always." Their journey, filled with rediscovered love and growing familial bonds, was just beginning, and with Beijing on the horizon, the path ahead was bright with promise.